Hello, hello. This is something kind of weird for me to do because typically when I do a deck profile, I had success. But this is something kind of different. I just want to do a deck profile saying I had fun. I went to the Kissimmee Regionals this last weekend. I met my prediction, which was 6-3. I don't even remember what place I got because I just didn't check. I think someone told me I didn't get an invite, which I was over the moon with, so I didn't have to fill out paperwork. So that was very nice. But I played Hecahands, and I played like a variant with it that you obviously see shortly. And then I also played the Magician cards. I played like the Dark Magician Girl, the Shining whatever, who searches Shining Sarcophagus. But I've been not really getting back into this game competitively. I just been trying to have fun. I'm more interested in my girlfriend's progress right now and trying to get her more exposed to, I guess, higher level events. We just went to Richmond. I played Radiant Typhoon. I didn't have the best time playing the deck. I once again was trying something else that probably if I went to like Dortmund, I probably would have had a better time. But I really wanted to play this deck. This was the main reason I was trying to go to Richmond. And then when in testing, I just kept getting food and I hated my life. And every single half board I made, I had to give my opponent like 3 or 4 cards just to do it. But I think these cards are really cool. I think the power ceiling is kind of awkward because it's all pretty much subjective based on how you build the deck. So the cards can feel sometimes a little bit weak, but if you're taking like key cards and being able to use them for your own strategy, that's where I feel like the deck shines at its most. Like logically, if you were able to like use a Hecaton's Godos in a like Dragotail Mirror, you could like take a Lucius and then search a 5 mana, activate 5 mana. In a K9 Vanquish Soul deck or mirror match, you could take a Rosin search Holy Sue effect. So like the application of like the Hagan cards is crazy. Like this guy's just functionally a generic hand trap. The requirements of using it are practically if your opponent breathes. You can summon it and then just during the main phase quick effect, you can revive any monster from your opponent's graveyard. So it helps keep them off like recursion too against like Draco Tail branded. You can keep them from like adding back certain cards to their hand with Arthalion, or you can try and keep them off like the recursion of like Ecclesia in the graveyard, so they have less targets in hand to do Arthalion on your turn with. And then also same with like Brius. If you slap down a Brius, your opponent typically has to respond with that with Draco Branded Tail. But anyway, I went 6-3. It's not like an amazing record, but I literally met my expectations. Like I'll even show my prediction here, which is very funny of going 6-3 with that Hegan Magician K9, which was my deck name. But without any further ado, we will talk about the cards I played, which 3 Hecan's Godos. This guy's functionally just, like I said, a generic hand trap. It's very nice if you have the ability to like start your turn with it, with a monster already on the board, because you can just go like right into Jowza. I did that against someone, like I said, I took their Ecclesia so they didn't have their recurrence, and I also did like Lupus effect too to put up a Typhon because they went into Secretarion. So when before they could trigger like the effect of Secretarion, I just put up Lupus, or put up Lupus and Typhon, and then had Godos with their Ecclesia on board. So I started my turn with Typhon bounce, and then just go right into Jowza and start searching. So that was like really cool. And then the other Again cards, the other main deck ones that typically are stealing cards from your opponent, are Brius and Gygas. You don't really need to play like more of these. At one point I was on like 3 of this when I was trying a different build and not really relying on Godos. It is awkward if you draw them, but I do play cards to hopefully like mitigate that, so you can put it back, or the spell card that you play, Hidden Hecahands, lets your opponent, while it's in the graveyard, banish itself to have your opponent draw one and dis one. It's not the most ideal effect, but it gets to the point of a Gygas trigger or a Brius trigger. And then also if you get like Charmed, you can just like when you go into like the extra deck or like summon from hand, you can just summon like Gygas off those. So the cards are really cool. Getting into more of them right now. Ibatel, 2 of, and Yadal. I think if moving forward with the deck, I'd probably try and go with more Ibatel and 1 less Yadal. I am playing 1 Ultra and 1 CR. My friend, when I told him I wanted to play the deck, he was like, oh yeah, let me just use store credit, and bought a box. And they only pulled Yadal. So I said, screw it, I'll just keep using the one he gave me. Shout out Hobby. I do think though I will cut like Yadal. I was on like three of this. I cut this down to two. I may even cut it down to one just because it's so easy to search. Like the fact that you can activate this card, send a card you control to the graveyard to set like one of the counter traps, and then functionally search a monster, which gets you into the other counter trap. So a lot of times when I am ending my board, I do have like double counter trap because I'm not on Tartaros. I kind of wish I was, but there's not really a lot of good extra deck monsters to be taking right now. Like I mean, against like branded Dracotail, you'll steal an Arthalion or like an Albion, and you'll just kind of like hate your life. And then Secretarion has to be fusion summoned to put like the lock or the floodgate effect on board. So there's not really like a lot of good extra deck targets. If like the Dragoon package picks up, then maybe I could see it. Being able to like River Dragoon or something like that. I did have one really cool line with Xeno. I played against a Kuel and I ripped an Omega from their extra deck, which they only play like what like 13 Keeltune synchros, the level 7 dude that just came out in Burst Protocol and an Omega. So I was able to rip the Omega during his main phase, activate Omega effect, and ripped Keeltune Q from his hand. So that was crazy. And then he also had like evenly, but he knew I said Yat all, which is a spell and trap negate. So he just it was just super debilitating. Something I'll also mention about these cards right quick is that having a counter trap that's just like searchable and like being able to easily get tutor into both is kind of crazy because in a lot of situations a lot of the chain links get pretty massive, and especially against like Radiant Typhoon, being able to keep them off of certain cards, like say they only have the ability to get to like one MST, like you have Ash in hand or you have like another gate on some of their other cards, and they just go like MST on something, you just go Yadal. They can't droplet, like they can't drop with the MST at all, like droplet it away, of course. And now they don't have an MST in your graveyard. And then also at the same time, you also have another card in your back row now because you're taking their MST. So the ability to just have like searchable, settable counter traps off an in-engine searcher is kind of crazy. And it is a little bit diminished because your opponent functionally just knows the location of them. But a lot of times I am just starting with Ibal and just setting that off the hidden Hecahands and then searching Yadal so they have less of an idea. In certain matchups against like Radiant Typhoon, I'll probably like search this one off Yadal and then set it with like some other back row cards. And then against like other decks that are monster heavy, I'll set the Yadal first off hidden Hecahands and then go for Ibal and then have that be kind of like not known set card. So once again, the ability to just shut off any of my opponent's stuff, chain link wise, is just so nice. It's a little sad though that I never really get to use the cards because once I am doing these effects, they're typically conceding. I think it's worth it to play both. It can get a little bricky sometimes, but we do have one card combos to get out of the brickiness with the canine cards. So this is what I was talking about, that just needs some kind of engine to be splashed into it that can be replicated inside of the meta. I think this is the power of playing the Heckhand cards, is playing it inside of an engine that will leverage your opponent's engine to further start yours. So what I'm saying by that is, like, let's say you're against like Radiant Typhoon. I believe I already gave an example of this earlier with Dracotail, but let's say you're against Radiant Typhoon. They have a specific choke point at the link 2 where they're adding a card from just any location to their hand. And that's when you can go Godos, and then Godos Quick Effect on Summon to just revive any of their Radiant Typhoon monsters. Let's say they start with Corsair and they want to be cognizant of their Magala to get Corsair off the field, so their Magala on your turn can summon another Corsair. You now have the ability to steal their Corsair and then use the Corsair effect for yourself. Same thing with Eldom, same thing with Sven. And also, I guess to a certain point, you could also establish any of the level 9s, because anytime those monsters leave the field due to Godos, or when they're summoned back from Godos, they're banished. So you're keeping them off their level 9s if you are summoning them. So the application of this card is just so good. And like, if there's anything to take away, just understand this card is functionally just a generic hand trap. And it has so much incredible power in mirror matches. I think functionally right now we just need a more understood and solved meta. That way this card can be used more effectively. But the Again cards are just so cool. Anyway, back to the Canine cards. The one card, Ripper Saryuja. I was experiencing a lot of times once people understood the deck more, they would just go Ash on Hidden Hecahands. And that sucked because I do so many other searching effects like so many other searching effects, like so many other viable Ash targets, but they just consistently wait till I activate the hidden heck hands to Ash. So I said, this is ridiculous. We'll just play the fucking K9 cards and say screw it and just make it so they cannot Ash hidden heck hands. But the one card combo is just, Naroi into Lantern, Lantern search Case, Case search Azuna, make Ripper, Ripper search Jokal, Jokal summon, Azuna dump Lupus, search Lantern off Jokal, and then Lantern effect summon back, and then use all the monsters in your field, obviously, except Ripper, to make Suryuja. So off of one Naroi, you're getting a hand fix if you are kind of bricking. You're getting a way to stop the hand traps, and then you're getting a way to set up other. Oops, there we go. Engines like Zuna Lupus, and the ability to try and get a little cheeky with understanding their hand and seeing if you can Brius. Because Brius has a really cool effect of looking at your opponent's hand and ripping one random card from it, and if it's a monster, summoning it. So let's say they hand trapped you, and you were able to play through it. If you can look at their hand with Naroi, and then Brius effect, if their hand is more ideal for the Brius, off Ibatel, you can summon Brius, Brius effect steal, and now they're starting their turn with 4 cards against 2 counter traps, and I might as well just cut the chase with this. I'm also on the Dragoon package. So they now have to deal with 2 counter traps, a Dragoon negate, a Ripper, and God forbid I have like an Ash or something else. So I functionally have a negate for every single card in their hand. And it is quite debilitating, especially them being counter traps, because it really just shuts off the ability to droplet someone. Not many people are in main deck traps, so like the counter traps really just resolve hard. Just like if they go droplet, they're out so much. Yeah, this package was really strong. It was really nice being able to go like Azuna on my opponent's turn and Godos. It only happened like once or twice, but when it did, I was just like so far ahead. But to help facilitate those, I was on the 6 Charmies. I don't think I'll main deck Prulia again. This one was kind of like weird. I felt it had more value in the side deck, just understanding what match I was against. It really only came in clutch, and I think like one matchup where my opponent was playing Radiant Typhoon Yummy, and I like double Prulia. I got Prulia Yash, I chained Prulia. I already have Nib in hand and like double Naroi. So like he started to try to play around Prulia, not give me much, and he got to like snatchy double Dragon Lords, and I just go Nib on that, and he just unfortunately there's nothing from there. I don't know what to replace this with. Maybe the Tartarus, but like I was happy with Fua at least whenever I saw it. And then I'll get to the rest of the hand traps. We're like 3 Ash. Well, function of the deck, you are playing like 15 because you have the triple Azuna and triple Godos, which like being able to keep your opponent off like certain key cards from their graveyard is really strong. So it did kind of feel like I was on a good amount of hand traps here. Let me put all this away. Put the hand traps to the side. And getting into the very last of the engines here, we have the Magician engine. Dark Magician Girl, Gandora, Shining Sark, and the Gaze It's Mice. So this is your 1.5 card zombie vampire, which Hecahands abuse to the nth degree. Like my highlight during the tournament, like one of my highlights outside of Xeno, Rip, Omega, was making a zombie vampire with an Ash and a Bell. Because if you use your opponent's monsters that have a level, they can just be treated as level 8. So if you're just stealing 2 monsters, you just make zombie vampire. And it's so goofy and it's so funny. And that's what also facilitates with the Dark Magician of Destruction. Being able to like say discard your half card, summon this, search Shining Sarcophagus, search Gandora, and then banish this, search out Dark Magician, or summon out Dark Magician of Destruction, then search out Gaze, and then from there you can summon the Gandora, and then go right into Zombie Vampire, or in other random situations, use your opponent's monsters, or like your Jowser or something like that. But I was very pleased with this engine. It only was like really bad once, and that's when I opened all 3 Dark Magician Girls, when my opponent, like my branded Draco Tail opponent, went like super OD on their first turn, and I just had no interaction. And he put up Secretarion, and I was like, oh, this card, like I opened 3 of this card, I literally can't play this card. But I was pretty pleased. I was siding out the Gaze some games. Gandor I kept in most games just because it is like a one card like kind of break board. If you're able to establish like a Shining Sarkoph in him and they like just don't respect it or like don't bother reading it. But I was pretty pleased with this package. I think I would continue with it. Just being able to put up the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon is pretty strong. And then the last card of my deck, which I do wish I actually played more, was Sandwich Day. This card is Pot of Greed if you are insane. I was pretty pleased with it. Every single time I activated, I think except one, it was Pot of Greed. So the logic is kind of goofy, but with the Dark Magician Girl package and the Charmies, you are pitching a card to be able to start playing. And if you are on the 6 Charmies, odds are high that you'll probably draw one. So you can go Dark Magician Girl pitch. This gets negated. That sucks. I need a spell card to activate. Sandwich Day is a spell card. I can activate this card and try and get into this. Once again, there's no way to search this card. There's no way to like really kind of tutor into it early. It is just kind of luck sacking with the card. But like if you're double charming your opponent, or at least just activating one charming, you're less likely to draw a matching attribute off the top. If you draw a spell card, you just upstart Goblin. That's fine, whatever. It is kind of sad that it is only once per turn, but I should probably also share the effect. It says if you have a monster in your graveyard, pay 200, draw one card, and reveal it. Then, if it's a monster, it applies effect based on its attribute. An attribute not in your graveyard, so most of the time you're either drawing earth, dark, light, and fire, and potentially even water, or maybe even wind, but hopefully not wind. And then if it is an attribute not in your graveyard, you draw an extra card, you don't have to reveal it. And then if it's an attribute in your graveyard, you just discard one card. That does suck because it does become like a neg one, which is not ideal. But like I said, if you're able to discard like a Charmy, and then just go Sandwich Day, you're functionally just going Pot of Greed, and then you can obviously get into that. But I do kind of wish I played more. I really like the card. It's very cheeky and it's very funny, and I was really pleased with it every single time I saw it. Most people were like, "What the hell is this card?" Like, anytime someone would be like, "What the hell are you playing?" I'd just kind of flash this and be like, "What the fuck is that card?" So yeah, like I said, I wasn't really trying to sweat it as hard as I could. I did also get a migraine like around round 4, and that bled into like me just misplaying egregiously like round 5. So oh, and then also to kind of go through my rounds, I got a double game loss in round 2 against Blue Eyes, and that's mainly because I didn't realize like the Gaze of Timaeus on the new Timaeus fusion from Ways of Muertos, the Gaze of Timaeus will still banish it, even though it's unaffected by other card effects until like the next end phase. Once you reach that end phase, that Gaze of Timaeus would banish the monster. Since Gaze of Timaeus is already applying to it, it will still banish that monster. I didn't know that. That was a huge mistake. I should have won by far. We reached time, and I had like infinite cards, like Dark Dragoon. Like it was just stupid. Like he was like, "No, I was definitely coming back." And I'm like, "In no way, shape, or form were you winning that game." But now we know for next time. Getting into the extra deck, we have these beautiful Jowzas. This card's insane. It is an ignition effect to search, so you're able to do it obviously on like the crackback. It says you can add a Hecahands card from your deck or graveyard. It is unfortunate it leaves you both open to Ashen Bell, but one of the upsides is if you do get to your next turn, if they're not already just conceding, you are just able to activate the effect again and just like add your counter trap back. So like there were games where I was doing that. I think it was against like Luna like game 2. I was kind of having fun with the person, and I saw like Zombie Vampire up. So like detached Zombie Vampire, mill Yadal. Yadal effect when it sends to the graveyard lets you set a Hecahands spell or trap from your graveyard. So I set the other counter trap, Jowza effect, add back the other one. So I already double counter trapped him on his first turn, and then I just got double counter trap back in rotation. So that was crazy. The requirements to summon this guy are very funny. It just says must be either fusion summon or special summon by attributing 2 monsters you control, 1 face-up monster owned by your opponent, and 1 illusion monster. So that's the point of the Gygus and Brius, and then also subsequently Godos. Which I forgot to explain what Gygus did. If you didn't know, he lets you look at the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck during your main phase. If there's a monster there, you can summon it. So it's also really nice getting the exact information in game 1s of knowing what your opponent's playing. So it makes siding like way easier. But yeah, that's the effect of Gygus. Joust is crazy. I love this card. It is also 2500 defense. You can play Dragon's Mind if you're able to like discard that off of the Dark Magician Girl. It makes it even better. And then same idea with like the Zombie Vampire. Xeno, this card's crazy, but not right now. If you ever want to read it, it is a hilarious effect. It has the effect during the main phase quick effect. Look at 2 random cards your opponent's extra deck, then summon 1. Sadly, it doesn't ignore the summoning condition, so if you get a card that can only be summoned doing like X or whatever summoning mechanic, you cannot summon that card. But there are a lot of cards that just kind of like you can just throw onto your field. I was stealing SPs with it. I was stealing, like I said, the Omega. I never ripped a Dark Dragoon, but I never played against someone also playing this package. The Dark Magician of Destruction. This guy's crazy. It feels super goofy just being able to summon him out with the easiest summoning condition I think I've ever read on a Yu-Gi-Oh card. And then just being able to tutor into the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Which, once again, this guy's crazy. I've had massive reservations of ever trying to play this card, but it's too goofy right now to, die on a hill for this, or what I think of this card, so I'm just playing it anyway. Some of the other little techs, SP, you kind of have to. It just makes your life easier. Dark, I always need my opponent's monsters to be able to play. So I was at one point when I was playing like a Snake Eye engine in this, playing like 3 different Charmies. Sorry, not Charmers. So it makes it like that much easier to start playing by taking your opponent's stuff. Saryuja. This is a hand fixer. This is what I was talking about when you go your Ripper, then your 4 monsters just into the Saryuja. It is a naked Saryuja, a non-chain block Saryuja, so your opponent can ash it, but typically you have Ripper up. Card's insane. It lets you fix your hands. It lets you get into the other engines if you're not seeing them. Card's disgusting. Ripper, not really much to say about this card. It's fantastic. I was going into it practically every game. Balin, this card was really weak. I probably do need more extra deck space, so this card could be cut. I went into it like once. Nash Knight, card's insane. I'm doing 101 and 101 and C101. I got rid of my C104 when it hit like $100 just because it felt idiotic that card was that much. So I just got rid of that. So I just don't have those cards. And I didn't really feel like asking because like I've always wanted to play these cards. I've had them for so long. This card obviously saw play. This card never saw play, so it feels really cool being able to play it. And the last 2 cards, Zombie Vampire and Typhon. I probably should be playing Zeus. This could probably just be cut for Zeus. This card was pretty good. It shut off his secretary, and like I said, this card's the bread and butter of the deck. So playing that card's like real necessary. But I mean, you could probably cut Valen. There were times where I was kind of like messing myself up by not having a extra ranked or canine monster in my extra deck. That was a little difficult sometimes with like Noroi locking myself, but yeah, we figured it out from there. But like I said, probably could just become like a Zeus or something else. That's the extra deck, and into the side deck. 2 Nib. It was good 1 round, and I guess that's how I'll justify it. I was sometimes siding it going first against like decks that would force me into situations by like hand trapping me. Like the logic was almost kind of borrowed from Mario, where your opponent breaks your board but has to commit so many summons that to the point that you can just nib them and side it in going first and have the reward. Lancia, I did cut this down to 2 right before the event. It was either going to be 2 Retaliating Sea or 2 Lancia. I just said screw it, I'll play 2 Lancia, but I was trying to respect Orcus and Malice. The decks are still goofy. Orcus obviously saw the uptick thanks to the Dark Magician of Destruction. So that was the logic on that. Never sided in once, never played against any deck that banished. It did sound cool in my head because if you go Dark Dragoon on, or just say like you rip into this guy off like Suger, you just like hard open and you can do like your full combo with like Dark Dragoon. You can gaze on your first turn, and then when it comes to their turn, you just Lancia them, and then your Dark Dragoon doesn't get banished. So that's kind of cool. Same idea with Dragon's Mind, which I'll just talk about now. Like if you have Dragon's Mind and you set it on, like you discard or milled it and then reset it, and then you Lancia on your opponent's turn, this doesn't get banished, so you can just reset it again. A little neat niche interactions, but it was cool to think about it like that. 3 Ghost Spell. This was, once again, just like okay. It was there for like Draco Tail and Radiant Typhoon, but It was always just like, okay, if I needed extra cards to side in, that's when it would come in. Uh, Not really much to say. I'll probably just keep it at 3 anyway. One judgment. This should probably just be cut. It feels a little silly just to try and rely on that, especially when we're siding in Dragon's Mind, having Dragoon on field, and then also having 2 more counter traps in the main. So probably don't need this. It was just in there because I was looking for a 15th card. And then last 3 cards are Feather Duster, Callby, and Tartaros. Tartaros would come into matchups like Radiant Typhoon because you have the ability to search a quick play off your Jowza, or if you're like opening it, or search it off Jowza or Yadal. You could search Tartaros, and it would be a great way to have another chainable to bounce their mandate. So this card was good in those logical situations. My opponent never got that far, so it never happened. Then Tartaros is also the fusion spell to be able to fuse into Xeno. So currently don't play a main deckable way unless I'm ripping like a Cartesia for my opponent to make the Xeno. So I have a little bit of contention with that. I wish I could play this card, but I draw it so often and it's just so upsetting. Like I'll draw like this in Gaze and I'll just hate my life. Like I would love to main deck this card. I absolutely would. Xeno is such a fun card, but I just can't bring myself to do it anymore playing Gaze as well. It's just like way too many like bricks and it's just so unfortunate. Other than that, I think I would take this out. Like I said, I not 100% sure. I was bouncing around with the idea of like force release, and werewolf, but just never really got there. I was finishing my deck list in line, or at least the side deck, and no one had it on them, so I was like, ah, fuck it, I won't try it. But I really just wanted to talk about this deck. It was a ton of fun playing this weekend. I felt my deck was insane. I was over the moon with how I was playing. Um, I can't recommend this deck enough. Really, you should check it out. I can kind of give you an idea of what like the end board looks like right quick, just based off of like some simple hands here. Of like you're able to start with like the Dark Magician Girl or like the Canine package. You could have, where is the, like the Ripper here, the Jowza, the Saryuge, and then also the Dragoon, which I typically would just shotgun it on their draw phase. So this is typically what your end board would look like. Jowza could be any Hecahands monster, it doesn't have to be Jowza. Which is what's so crazy about these trap cards is they just require you to control Hecahands monster. So like let's say somehow your Jowza gets outed. If you just have like a Godos in hand and your opponent adds a card to their hand, except outside the draw phase or damage step, you can just summon the Hecahands monster. So even if like you brick on these and have like Godos in hand, you could set both and then just summon the Godos when your opponent breathes, and then you just like you have both counter traps online. So these are like the easiest counter traps ever to put online, and it's just so funny. But this is typically what the board would look like, and you probably have like 1 or 2 cards in hand, just because you are like searching and adding a lot, and then just the gaze on their draw phase. So yeah, that's kind of like what the board would look like, and it was very strong, like absolutely wiping away like 5 cards, taking my opponent's stuff. It was just and now I guess I'll talk about some of the other engines I was trying with it. Let me just put all this back in order. OCD like that. I started out with like Kashtira with it because they're both level 7s. Uh, that quickly went away. I started out with the Fiendsmith package just because I was looking for cards to really help utilize hidden Hecahands because you need to send. You don't need to, but you get the most value out of the card by sending another card you control to the graveyard when you activate it. So you can just send like the Requiem attached to Engraver, and that'll get you into the counter trap, get you into Yidal or Ibitel, just to be able to keep playing or get the other counter trap. That quickly went out the window because I feel like the power of Fiendsmith right now is just utilizing a bridge, and there wasn't a bridge I could really successfully and continuously utilize outside of maybe like playing the Radiant Typhoon cards, which once again I was trying, but I would typically go to like Gossip Shadow just to try and ensure this card would resolve. But I was literally just playing the engine without a bridge, and that sucked. So that went by the wayside. I then tried Radiant Typhoon because the logic was if I could just go Gygas or something like that, or a zombie vampire, I could totally just take the Radiant Typhoon monsters and just start searching my own. Like if I rip a Eldum from them or a Sven, I can just go Sven search chant, activate chant search Eldum, Eldum effects summon, Eldum effects search the other like Sven because I was only on Eldum and Sven and like 3 vision 2 chant. So it's just I get a free card from my opponent. I get the 2 monsters, third monster in hand that I also didn't special summon by its own effect, so I can just special summon it. It was cheeky. I didn't pursue it much. I kind of just let that fall by the wayside, and then what I was playing more recently was a Snake Eye card, just because Snake Eye Ash is a 1 card zombie vampire. It was very powerful. The card ceiling is so high, but you have to play so many bricks. And in testing at like locals, I just kept getting Ash trolled. Like I 1 round, I had normal summon or they go Peruli and draw phase. I normal summon Ash. I'm like whatever. I search popular, do popular effect. They change roll, and I'm like what's happening right now? And then I do like the smallest version of a Snake Eye combo, just establish like Princess and Grave. Then I get nibbed. Then it goes to their turn, and they just super poly me and like pitch brand diffusion. I'm like, what is happening? These are not real game states. So I got kind of burnt out by that. The Snake Eye cards are so much fun with this deck. Being able to at least like Flameverse place a card helps you out so many cards, and also letting you steal cards from your opponent with the field spell. But I don't think it's as good right now, especially with how many bricks I was playing. The Millennium package, once again, like a 1 card, or like 1.5 card because you need to put a place a monster with Wedgie Temple. It's a 1.5 card combo to get to Zombie Vampire, which, like I said, is the bread and butter of the deck. Loses to MST. Like, absolutely just loses to MST. I don't think there would be a situation I'm playing these cards again. It would be funny, but it just. You pay 2,000 life points and there's MST it. And you just like look goofy. I was trying the Mitsurugi engine out super early, and I hate playing Mitsurugi. It's not for me. I don't enjoy it, and most of the time when I was playing the Mitsurugi engine with Hecahands cards, I just ended up playing Mitsurugi, and I just wasn't having fun. At least with like the Canine cards, they feel more like a supplemental engine and like really strong pushes that can be made. But the end goal with those cards was get to the Hecahands cards like through Saryuja and stuff like that. But with Habakiri and Mitsurugi cards, it felt like I was playing Mitsurugi, and I don't want to play Mitsurugi ever. I hate the deck so much; it's so uninteresting to me. But like I said, the power of this deck is just being able to utilize your opponent's cards. And what I feel like that needs more is just some better understanding of what the format is. So functionally like a more solved format, and then splicing that engine from there. Because if you can guarantee you're running against like even canine cards, like I could just go a Rip of Gygus or something and hit like probably not as often Jokul, but like a Lantern or even a Naroi to send himself to look at my opponent's hand, a Nazuna to dump the Lupus. Like the utility of these cards are just so crazy. And I don't think we'll ever really. I know we have the support coming next set. I thought the one in hand that lets you fusion summon lets you fusion summon for anything originally, until I read it again. Then it also just only says Hecahands cards. And I was really sad about that because I thought I could do like the effect in hand and make Snake Eyes Doom Dragon the hard way, but obviously you cannot. That card's like kind of okay. It's a decent one of because if it's in the graveyard and you have a Hecahands fusion sent to the graveyard, you can just add it back to your hand. So like getting an extra discard for a Dragoon is pretty hot. The trap card's kind of mid, and then the fusion we get's kind of mid as well. So I don't think we'll ever get really more support than that because these cards are so subjective on what they're taking that for them to get support, if the cards that they're taking are so powerful, which is, a lot of what Konami is doing is printing very powerful cards. If they're able to consistently take more cards from your opponent, the power level just keeps kind of going exponential based on what they're taking. So I don't think we're ever really see more support for this. Which is no. I had the time of my fucking life just joking around all day, playing these goofy ass cards, and once again, I don't think I'm coming back competitively anytime soon. So if you guys like this like weird kind of content of me just rambling about me being an idiot, yeah, let me know. I had an idea to talk about the history of what it took to make Block BA. I think that's like my only other video idea. It would be cool too to talk about like the TCG tournament tracker app. Like here's like my round and my stats throughout the day if it'll load, but I could do a video talking about this and like the use cases of it. it's really cool being able to see like how your opponents are or your teammates are performing as the tournament's going on. Like I said, I ended up with a 6-3 record. Die rolls 5-4. I went first 6 times and second 3 times. I played against Mikanko 1 round, so they just had me go first. That was a really funny matchup because you're probably supposed to have them go first one of the games, but I really just wanted a combo, so I said, "Fuck it, I'll just go first every single game." That was funny. Ruben was right next to me too, just kind of cutting up with him. He was laughing about that, but yeah, fun tournament experience. I'm really sad about double game losing in round two. That kind of killed a lot of the flow for the day. And yeah, thank you guys so much for listening to me ramble.